Hi, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, we have the final part of my SCASL project, a wrap-up of sorts. I mentioned when I talked about my preview for the SCASL project that I have read through these books for years and multiple summers. This is the first time that I've ever sat down and done a detailed analysis on them as a group. So I have read the middle grades list, what they call the junior book list, since the summer of 2017 or 2018. And then it was the year after that that I started reading the young adult list as well. So this is the 5th summer for junior books and 4th summer for young adult books. And I think as a project as a whole, it came together, it gelled really well this summer. Instead of just reading through the list, I had a goal, I had a focus, and I think that went really well. So on that note, I'm going to talk about the things that I think went well. So first off, it didn't take quite as long because I also used audiobooks. It's been a while since I've gotten into audiobooks, and it was before I started this project that I was listening to audiobooks. And since I've used more audiobooks, listened to more audiobooks this year, obviously to get through these books, the 40 total, well about 35 with the ones that I'd already read, audiobooks helped me get through the books and also lent a different view or perspective on the books. Also, it helped me get to them in a more timely manner because in years past, I've simply gone through the library, through ebooks and through physical books. And a lot of these books, especially the ones that I got on audio, they had long holds on the physical and the ebook. So I was able to do it in a much more condensed time frame, which I think helped me compare the books against other books in the project itself a lot better than if they had been more spread out. The second thing that I think went really well is the fact that because I made this a project, I made this a video project in which I was going to be reviewing and ranking them, I established a criteria before I started reading the books to evaluate them. And so I had something that I looked for in each book. And that really helped me focus more on the book, as well as not just say, dismiss it out of hand because it wasn't my type of book. I've mentioned before that a lot of these are not my type of book, but students, the target demographic, tend to like them. And so this helped me focus more and evaluate them more on just say my personal preference. Speaking of those, that criteria, I'm going to transition a little bit into the things that could be improved. And that's the criteria. I did struggle a little bit because this was my first time trying to come up with criteria. I struggled with how I was going to define it, how I was going to rank the different things, describe the different things in the video. And I realized that things like, say, quality and teaching potential, I think I can work with that, but I think I need to define it a little bit better. And I might do something different with, say, necessarily appeal to the students or popularity or something like that. And so because it was a little bit less defined, the ranking ended up being more heavily weighted on my personal opinion of it than say those other criteria, but they did factor in. So overall thoughts on this project. Because I read them in a more concentrated time frame and I reviewed them specifically, I got a better overall vibe and feel for the books as a group. Maybe in the future I will specifically focus on, all right, this segment of time I'm going to look just at the young adult, this segment I'm going to look just at the middle grade, because I was going back and forth with those throughout my reading, just whichever one I got to next. But I did get an overall view on the types of books included in the selection and maybe a hint at the factors that go into why certain books get chosen for this list. I am intrigued as to what goes into the selection process and how many books they actually exclude and how many they have to choose from, because I know that the nomination process can be any librarian in the state, can be any teacher in the state. It's not just necessarily one specific group, not just specifically their members. So I would be intrigued to know, do they actually try to choose the cream of the crop from the books that are selected to them, or do they have to search to get enough of the book? So I would love to learn more about the process on the back end that goes into selecting these books. I also noticed that there tended to be a lot more diversity in these books. There were only a handful where I had to say I didn't notice any diversity in the books. And that also intrigues me, knowing the background, the setting in which all of these school librarians are working, because this list was created fully within the pandemic and everything that different political officials in the South, in our state, have been pushing for different things. So that's another thing that gets me intrigued as to the selection process. I also realized that there's an interesting split in my reading tastes and preferences going on. A lot of the types of books that are published in young adult literature are not necessarily really what I want to read. But then you think about middle grade, which has a lot of those. A lot of it reads way too young, and that's not my taste. So I'm struggling with, because I want to move more to young adult because I'm going to be teaching high schoolers, but it's like, it's a balance of, there's a lot that I like from middle grade, but not everything. There's a lot that I like from young adult, but not everything. And I'm trying to mesh that together. So I probably will end up reading a mix of both genres, and next summer, even though I'll be fully immersed in teaching high school, I probably will still read both the Junior Book Award list as well as the young adult list. That brings me to my predictions. And I'm always wary about making predictions because I have been wrong every year. Now, there's ones that I like. The ones that I have put in first place for both the young adult and the middle grades list, unfortunately, I do not think that they will win. None of the books that I have preferred have ever come close to being at the top. Now, I say that, I don't know what the ranking is. I don't know the numbers. It's not necessarily a pure and honest award system, because the awards are determined by popularity, but not every segment of the school population in the state is represented, because it's really up to the individual librarians and teachers to tell the students, hey, here's this great opportunity. If you read this number of books from this list, you get to vote on it. And I found out about this list through the librarian at my old school, who's actually going to be the librarian at the school, who is the librarian at the school that I'm going to. I found out about it through her. The librarian at the school that I just left never mentioned this. So none of the students at the school that I was at ever knew anything about this list and this opportunity to choose those books. So it's not necessarily the best run system or the most publicized. Setting that aside, I think it does get to enough of the school age, appropriate age for each of these books, you know, children's, picture books, junior, and young adult, to make it fairly valid to be a prize winner. If I were voting, which teachers and adults don't vote in this award, I would obviously vote for either Starfish or The Shape of Thunder for the middle grade list. I don't think that either of those will actually win, even though they should. I think if we think about the books that have previously won, survival stories tend to be pretty popular. On that end, there were 2 survival stories in this year's list. Both of them were told in verse, which is also something that might appeal to more readers. And that was The Canyon's Edge and Alone. The one thing that may take back from that is there's the main characters are both female. And at that age, even if you get the boys reading, they are not going to be drawn to those sorts of books, so they may not vote for them because of that. That being said, I really can't think of, I looked through all the list and I really can't think of any other book that might be at the top, except for one that I would love if it won, and that's Amari and the Night Brothers. That's really high up for me. It's got popularity going for it, and a lot of people saying, hey, this is amazing, and it was high in the Goodreads Choice Awards. My predictions are that one of the survival stories, or perhaps Amari and the Night Brothers, may win. I probably will be completely wrong. I really don't have a good idea for the middle grades list. Now we come to the young adult list, where I mentioned that last year the book that I thought was the worst actually won. And the year before that, I think One of Us Was Lying was the winner. I didn't like that one either. It wasn't my worst that year, but because of that, a book that I think has a possibility of being a winner in that sort of vein, unfortunately, is All Your Twisted Secrets. I think it has a possibility of it. Another one that has a big possibility is The Inheritance Games, because it's so popular. And the third book is coming out this year, so there might be a little bit of hype going into that, where people are going back and reading the first one, or are reading the third one and going, oh look, that one's on that list, I want to vote for that one. I wouldn't be mad if The Inheritance Games won. I wouldn't be mad if any of these won, but those are my predictions for what will win in the young adult category. I can't see any of the others really catching on all that big. Those types of stories, like with The Inheritance Games, the rich people drama, the All Your Twisted Secrets, the students that tend to read, it does tend to be girls, way more girls who read, high school age and beyond, frankly. So those are my predictions as to who will win. Here's what will happen. When I come on next year to give my preview of the books on the list, I will announce whether or not my predictions were right. I had a really good time with this project, and I look forward to doing a very similar type of project. Obviously, I have to come up with different criteria for the Goodreads Choice Award lists coming up this fall. Hopefully, Goodreads gives us more time. I doubt it, but we shall see. Thanks so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one.